Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never-ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 351 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. What's up out there? Have you guys been living to be the best version of you that's possible? I mean, that's what we're working for, right? Not comparing ourselves to somebody else, but only comparing ourselves to who we were yesterday. I like that thought because it means you're growing, right? When we're born, we have an innate goodness and worthiness that's born with us. I believe that. I believe we're born with an innate ability to know when something feels right and when something doesn't feel right. Now, depending on who raises you, your idea of goodness might shift. But as I've said probably 100 times before, and I'm going to keep saying it, the worthiness that you were born with stays with you forever. Now, your idea of goodness may shift around, and we're going to talk about that. But you are worthy simply because you were born, and that never goes away. I hope you know that. Now, based on what your parents or whoever raised you thought, that whatever they thought was good is probably how your idea of goodness started to shift from what you had thought innately. Or it could be based on your teachers or your church leaders. There's a lot of people that influence you as you're growing up. But as you do that and you learn what their version of good is, now you have to conform into something else in order to be considered good. But there are so many different thoughts on what good is. Our inner guidance system, that's the one that's with us from the get-go. I mean, we innately know when something feels off. Little kids are especially good at it. Animals are even better. Have you ever seen a dog extremely uncomfortable around a person? I would be wary of that person. Now, kids pick up on it too. But as we get older, we start conforming and we slowly start to repress what we feel is right in order to be seen as good to those around us. It's a really powerful form of control. That's why getting in touch with your inner guidance system is so important. When you're in touch with your inner guidance system, you aren't easily swayed. You become really difficult to manipulate, and that is a good thing. I remember when I was still trying to conform to the religion of my parents and be seen as good, and they really encourage for you to confess all of your sins to the elders or else you don't get to live forever or whatever. And there's a lot of sins, let me tell you. Most things that come naturally as a human is a sin in some way to religion. They say if you don't conform, though, then you won't get everlasting life. And that's a powerful tool. So at one point, here I am, I'm confessing a so-called sin, and I'll never forget when one of the elders in the church told me, they said that because I had sinned, and now granted, I mean, every single person sins, right? But here they were sitting me down, and I was, vulnerable, and they said because I had sinned, I wasn't worthy of praying, so my prayers wouldn't reach God. The only way I was worthy of talking to God was through the elders praying for me. How hopeless does that feel? I mean, that doesn't feel encouraging at all. The only way I can pray is through them. That felt so off and so inconsistent with what my inner guidance system was telling me that it was one of the last times I ever had anything to do with that religion. I always had a gut reaction that the things that they were teaching were purely for fear and control, but that solidified it for me. And I'm really, really thankful for that moment because it made it blatantly obvious to me that this was not the path I was meant to take. Now, here's the thing though. It wasn't easy getting off that path because everything and everyone I knew was headed down that path. And a lot of the people that were around me had the same sort of fears and concerns, but they just ignored them. And at the time, I wished that I could because I thought I would fit in better with my family and the people that I'd grown up with in the religion if I could just ignore my gut and blindly follow what someone else told me was the only path to goodness. But you know what? And this is something that I'm so glad that I know and that I knew innately then. I'm more powerful when I'm living my truth. And so are you. I'm also a lot happier and freer because I'm not bound by what someone else decides is good. I'm only bound to what my inner guidance system knows is good and right for me. But because we've been so shaped by others, we have to do a little bit of work to get back to where we're in touch with what we know innately. Now, I do that through meditation and exercise and sometimes having a little bit of solitude. You may be doing the same thing just by getting into nature and sort of sitting quietly. How often do we sit quietly? That's a really good way to get back to what you innately know is right. I mean, we knew it as a kid. We knew it even as a young adult. But at some point, we stop believing that we're capable of anything and just start sort of conforming to the norms around us. And that's the easy thing to do, but it is not what we were meant to do. That's why when you think about that thing you're passionate about, you feel so invigorated and so good, and it feels so right. Like maybe you're wanting to write a book or start a company or just get healthy. It feels good to think about it. But getting off that easy, well-worn path means things have to change. And in order for things to change, we have to do something different, something that maybe you're not comfortable with. But you have to get off that easy path. Now, you know innately what you want, but because someone maybe told you at some point it wasn't possible or it'd be too hard or just chill, or maybe life just took you somewhere else and your dream of what you really wanted just sort of faded. I ran into a client of mine recently. She and her husband had moved to Dallas because his job had transferred there and her daughter was there. So she was really excited about moving there. And she said she loves it so much and she's super happy, and I was really glad to see it. Now, I know that she has parents that still live here, and I was asking her about them and because they're a little bit older, and I asked how they were. And she said, when we told them we were moving, you would think someone had died. She said it was like someone had died. Her mother, all of her mother's friends sent her mother all these bouquets as if she were in mourning because her daughter wanted to move to Dallas. But yet she still moved to Dallas. She followed her gut and did what was right for her, even though it wasn't what her parents wanted for her. Now, side note, she visits them once a month and they're all happy now, and it's fine because they get to see her a lot and they're not so nervous about that. But you see, most of the time, people want you to conform to what they want to preserve their preference or their idea of what would be good for them. And sometimes society's like, yeah, well, you should do that. And sometimes that can be pretty convincing. But that's why you have to be strong. And that's why, more importantly, you have to be in touch with your inner guidance system. We're powerful beings. And that power that you have when you follow your own path, it scares people because they can't control you. I mean, religion can't control you when you dance to the beat of your own drum. Politicians can't control you when you dance to the beat of your own drum. Family even can't control you when you dance to the beat of your own drum. But you know what dancing to the beat of your own drum means? It means you have to hear it. You have to listen for it. It means you have to follow your gut, even if it means getting off that easy, well-worn path that everyone else is on. And it seems like you may be attached by a rope to that path. But you have to cut that rope that's tying you to what everyone else is doing or what everyone else wants you to do. Because that's the easy path, but it isn't the one that leads you to living your truth. And it doesn't mean if you cut that rope, if you cut those ties, it doesn't mean you have to immediately jump off that path and never get back on. But it does mean that you can. Society wants you to conform, but conform to what? Something that doesn't feel right to you but allows you to remain in the group? Your power lies in your ability to know when something is right for you and when it's not. There is no one right way. There is no one path to being good. Anytime someone is telling you what you should do or what is right for you, you know there's an innate feeling of, you're not the boss of me. You don't even know me. Little kids are the best at that, right? But when others tell you what to do and it doesn't feel right to you, don't do it. But when something does feel right, when something feels to your bones like it's the right thing to do, man, does that feel good. That's when you've got to do it. Embrace it. And don't force it to happen. Just allow it to happen. Don't need it to be there now. Just know it'll happen as it should, because there's no rush in this life. As long as you're heading in the right direction and your inner guidance knows what that direction is, and you by extension know it too. As long as you're heading in the right direction, it does not matter how long it takes. I read something the other day that said the direction you're heading is way more important than the speed in which you're moving. Brilliant statement to me. Really think about it. As long as you're heading in the right direction and it feels right to your core, stay the course. So the title of this episode, it was a question. And the question was, whose good is the right one? And the answer is unequivocally yours. Share this with 3 people that need to remember the power of their own internal guidance system. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.